There we
Thank you
go.
all for joining us and jumping on today. I know I'm Carrie Gillum, and Rashawn, I know I've met you, but I don't think I've met anybody else. So I'm here working with Howard at Career Oyster and helping people to find and build the careers that they really love and want to and deserve. So I know we just have a couple of people here. I've definitely got some last minute cancellations. People had a conflict on time. So we've been this is a bi-weekly session that we'd like to start doing. So we'll be doing these every other week where we'll share helpful hints around interviewing and the whole job search process. I would love your input on what's the best time to be doing this. So we did it at 7 Eastern, but if you don't even mind putting in the chat, what would be the ideal time for you for us to be doing these free bi-weekly sessions? We'd love to get input. You can never win on these things, right? What works for one person's never going to work for somebody else. So there's definitely a no-win situation, but we'd certainly like to get your input on what works best for you. And with that, I'll introduce Howard. Howard is our founder and CEO and head coach. Howard built the Career Oyster platform and all of the strategies and methodologies. He's got many years experience as a recruiter. He's also been a salesperson, and he's got some engineering degrees. So really that combination of skills and experiences, I think, has led him to create this really unique and different system and different way to approach the job search process. So I'm really passionate about it and always excited to hear from him. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Howard. He's going to present for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll get into the Q&A session. I know that I've got a few questions that have come in, so we'll cover those and then leave it open to you guys. Either you can type it in, or if you'd like to just verbally ask your question. We want to make sure that this is interactive and you guys are getting good use of the 30 minutes of time. Does that sound good? And is that what everybody was expecting?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Well, with that, Howard, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. So we'll go back and I'll kind of restart. We're going to talk a little bit about career strategies for technical professionals, but the patterns hold for all careers. So the basics of it are, in today's world, and one of the founding principles of Career Oyster was to have proactive career management. That means you're ready to handle the changing world of the 21st century, which will go increasingly rapid over time as technology matures and AI enters the arena. So what you have to do is make sure you're aware of what job trends and what future opportunities are changing, okay? So that you can either adjust and get the skills, make transitions, and or plan for a different kind of a career, because you will be impacted by these changes. And what are the major influencing factors on tech jobs is one of the things we'll focus on a little more than other careers, but all careers will be impacted. So the key to this is to understand your career and where you are, as well as what are product life cycles. So after we cover a little bit about this product life cycles, we'll take questions and answers from anybody. And one of the things we'll do is we'll talk about any active job search challenges you're having. We could talk a little bit about people for long-term versus short-term strategies, permanent versus contract strategies. And I saw a couple questions come in on transitions. So that we'll deal with those after we get through the first 15 minutes or so, just to get some exposure to the concept. Okay. About a couple of years ago, Mark Sindinella, he was formerly from Ladder's CEO. He wrote a little article I thought was interesting, and it explains what's really happening in the job search world. And when you look at it, it'll become obvious. And it says, what happens when the sun sets on you? And at some point, everybody's career has impacts that affect it, and you have to adapt or change. Could be an industry that declines, could be an industry that grows, could be products that change, could be technology impacts, could be global impacts. And so what happens is skills actually have a marketable lifetime. They're commoditized over time. In other words, they start out as innovative and inventive and really change the way we think about things. But then, and they're hard to implement and execute at that time, but they become easier as time goes by. And then all of a sudden they become almost worthless. So they're not immortal. Skills pass through a life cycle themselves, and the brains of geniuses that started the systems are eventually replaced by the execution of the systems through automation and by implementers and delivery people, to eventually it becomes a dull routine that users use all day long, just like we use the internet all day. So one of the questions in the future that we have to ask ourselves is, and it's already being felt everywhere, is what changes will AI bring and how will that impact careers? And I expect them to be almost as substantial as computers when they first came out. And in the end, when you look at jobs and opportunities, skills equals marketability. If your skills become worthless, your marketability declines and you run into personal issues and disruptions and gaps, et cetera, to your career, your livelihood, et cetera. So how do we steer one's technical career? Well, in the past, in the end of the 20th century, you really didn't have as many difficulties because you could send resumes out, you got responses, things moved pretty quickly, and you didn't have to be overly proactive. You just did it when you were ready. It was transactional, and you got ready when it came up. But since 2009, when I started this company, I realized that there's a very direct need because of speed that we should be individually proactive and not reactive, et cetera. Not unlike agile methodology. So we need to be agile for our careers. And we need to be targeting the positions and skills we want, not just reacting to someone who calls us up. 95%, 99% of the people out there are reactive to phone calls they get and do not initially point out where they want to go. They apply to jobs, they apply to a lot of things, but in the end, they take a job that reacted to them instead of targeting for the position and skills that they want, and especially if they're positioning themselves for future skills and future opportunities. There will also be fewer single careers. People will have multiple careers as technology changes through its cycles, and a career in a given technology, a specific technology, might come down to be very commoditized in 5 to 7 years max. So the importance in some fields to handle this, the initial strategy I'll give you, and this has been shown in sales and other things, is the importance of getting human skills. And what I mean by human skills, they're the skills of at the top level of the development cycle or the project cycle or the sales cycle or the management cycle. The human skills don't care what the technology underneath is. One of the reasons I left selling hardware and computers was because that technology obviously got commoditized, but by placing people, companies always need people to do certain jobs. And that became something that was above the technology transitions and product life cycles. So human skills have to do with strategy, plannings, analysis, evaluations, interfaces, vendor things, where you deal with problems, strategy, road mapping, things like that, procedures, processes, et cetera. But the underlying technology is less impactful to your job in the longer term. The key to that also is to have strong networks of contacts so you can move around where those needs are. And you have to learn to look at yourself as an analytical problem, right? What are my career analytics? How are my marketability? What are my options for jobs? Take a look at that annually and make sure that you're keeping up with the given trends that are out there. McKinsey and all of them put trends out there, and therefore you can usually understand that. So one of the things we want to do is understand product life cycles, et cetera. We'll take a little look at those right now so you can see what I'm talking about. The idea is to be where the ball will be, as one of the greatest hockey players, Wayne Gretzky, used to say, where the puck would be, actually. And
Howard, there's somebody in the waiting room. Can you please let him in?
I don't know how to get to that waiting room. Mute all. Yes, okay, good. I got him. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at. Now, if I look at product life cycle, the old MBA product life cycle, it has stages where we get our education and our start, and initial background. That's kind of your development stages. You might think of that as getting through college. And then we have an introduction phase of a product where you're starting to sell it, market it. You're looking for your initial adapters, your early adapters, looking for some pilots. You're looking for some places to try your new products out. And then it hits a slope, the growth slope, and it moves up. And then eventually it becomes mature. It becomes a mid-size or larger company. And now the processes are out there, competition comes in, et cetera. And then eventually a product will go through someone will supersede it, make a better mousetrap, and the product will decline if it's not rejuvenated. So this is a product life cycle. Now, what most people don't realize, and they don't always look at this in their jobs, but they can tell from the job boards how many jobs are out there, so that you can tell when you're in a growth stage pretty easily. But you're not always sure that that company's in the same thing, because there's more things to think about. For example, products go through this life cycle. Technologies go through this life cycle. I've been through so many different transitions in technology, almost from the beginning when people didn't have computers, and that constantly changes the way you look at things and changes the marketplace and the opportunities, et cetera. Positions and tasks are therefore adapted to handle new technologies and new products, and you see that every day. And there are projects that come and go depending on what's needed to implement and execute new strategies, new processes, new products. Industries go through product life cycles where some start out and then they fade away. Others have more money or funding and they exceed and take over the market. And then in other cases, the industry may be replaced by an automation or a new kind of product. So that happens. And companies, like I said, will go through those cycles. So some companies are in each of these cycles in this life cycle. Now, what's interesting, even countries go through this. Now, what's interesting about this is that when we take a job, we don't think of all these things, but we should think about at least a couple of them. Domain expertise of products, technologies, and industries, and the positions in there are kind of important from your personal point of view. Companies are a little less important because usually some companies survive and some go away. But you want to know when you get in there, what skills am I picking up in these areas? And here's something people don't think about. They think they want to join a specific company, and they think they might want to get into a certain industry. Well, that's all good. But in the end, you might be better off not worrying about the company, but worrying about the position. When I placed people in recruiting and I taught my recruiters, we worried about what skills do you personally pick up when you get into a given position. So a company that may not be large or may not be the most reputable in the market or the biggest marquee company might have a great position where your personal development really excels, and you can get on a fast track in different places. But it's interesting, you should assess these things when you're interviewing and when you're looking at things to see what kind of domain value do I get, because people hire people in their domain. They like to hire people in their domain. Just because you know a certain technology, you may not know their industry, and therefore you'll have a tough time getting that position. And so looking at these things when you take a job is more important sometimes than the specific tasks. The tasks are actually the lowest form of the day-to-day of doing, but the marketability comes from products, industries, et cetera. Now, the other side of the equation is you too are a product. You have a career life cycle. So each of us is at a different age and a different stage of development, et cetera. So we have entry levels where down here where you probably you got some internships or something. And then the early careers, you're starting to pick up skills, maybe your first job or so, where you're picking up some skills. These impact this curve. It impacts what your potential is. And if you're younger, then you want to do these things to build skills. So at this stage, you're looking for skill development, and so that you can eventually move up and earn higher money. Okay. In the mid-career, you're kind of at the point where you should have a promotion, or you're gonna get on a track to either be a technical expert, and you look at jobs in terms of an expert, a technology expert, etc. And it's got some pluses, but it's got some risk, right? If it goes antiquated, the technology goes away, etc. And on the other side of it, you want to eventually maybe look at management, which is one way to get above the technology. Consulting in a consulting firm is another way to get above the technology. If you go into sales or marketing or something that's driving from a business, you can get above the technology because that's involved with people skills. You can also get above it in terms of analytics or in finance and other things, because that's above the technology itself. Okay. Finally, you have executive level positions that you get, et cetera. But somewhere in this growth and maturity, this is where people mature and they look for different things, such as return on investment. And the reason they got these jobs was because they put good investment here to put their skills together, and they eventually took the path of the people side, or they had a path of a subject matter expert. A lot of people in today's world, because these cycles are shorter, have to reinvent themselves. Okay, so if you look at product life cycles, how have they changed in my career? Back when we were looking at it, let's say in the 90s or so, in that time frame, you had a 5 to 10 year period that was almost predictable, and you could survive in a given career and a given product life cycle because the introduction of new products and innovation was slower, and there were fewer companies, and a lot of the cities didn't even have the high-tech centers that are out there today. There was Boston and Chicago and Silicon Valley and a couple others, but Atlanta wasn't a big tech center at the time, and some others were not. But now, with all the multiplication in technology, now the product life cycle is 2 to 5 years. So even if you get a brand new product out, within 2 years, you got competitors copying you and putting out something a little different, maybe a little better. And all of a sudden, the technology becomes easily executed. There's automated ways to do it. Just the fact that we're doing these Zoom meetings, I couldn't do these in 2009 with any ease. So the reality is this is bringing these into day-to-day usage, and the technology has a shorter cycle. That means careers have a shorter cycle, and the jobs change based on the replacement technologies. All right. So in a goals section, what's your strategy? We could talk about a lot of details, but for this webinar, we're going to shorten it up a little bit. In your first position, the whole goal is the first in this area, the B and C, is to build skills. Skills equals your marketability. Your marketability means I can get jobs. That means I have options. That also means that I can get dollars, and I also have some security. Why? Because security is never based on a company. It used to be thought that way in the 80s, et cetera, but it's not thought that way today. Security is based on your skills and your ability to get a job if you have to go make a change for whatever reason. So that's this position, to build your skills, get yourself a foundation. The second strategy that comes up occurs when you get to mid-career, when you're at 5, usually maybe even 10. I usually say in this case, you want to get you're about 35 years old maybe, and you want to start now looking for return on investment. You have these skills and this background, and now you want to try to maximize dollars, get yourself a better position, maybe go into a company where you have a management opportunity, take an internal promotion, get moved up in your present company so you get more responsibility and broaden your background. This side, sometimes, because if you go to the people skills, takes a little more time to mature in and acquire those skills and master them, because people skills are slower to develop than technical skills. So if you go technical, you want to become a subject matter expert, and then you can become a consultant and a very strong specialist. That's fine. and you can then you can make that living, but you're still dependent a little bit on the technologies. If you go to the people side, however, at that point in time, you are above the technology a little bit, and you now are it takes more time though to make sure you master them in terms of whether you're running teams, running projects, etc. So your development of those skills and mastering them takes a little more time, but that's the two paths that most people look at. Entrepreneurship can occur at any point at this point. It's usually not a good idea before that point. We read about the 4 or 5 major players that make a fortune on that, but the reality is 95, 98% fail if they start too early before they have their background. This is also a time when you develop return on investment here. You can go to smaller and mid-sized companies a lot easier because you have structure maybe from a large company. The next side is kind of like maturity, senior level positions, where you actually look for your return on investment. It could be now you want some quality of life, you got family issues, you got other issues you're trying to balance out. You may not want to be a manager. You may want to have be in a let's say a user environment, which is a little bit less demanding environment where you can work a more reasonable work schedule versus a vendor environment. You don't go to a vendor environment unless you really want to work hard and long hours because you have to be an achiever and produce results in a time schedule. A lot more difficult than inside a company. But they're both good worlds, and there's trade-offs between it. So here is most of your life, actually, from 35 to 55 usually, and this is where you identify what you want to do, and you build your career, and you probably change it all through that based on your values, etc. And a lot of people, when they get to the end of that, maybe they don't want to manage, maybe they want to do something where they're a team player and they like to do a certain part of the job, etc. But that's what happens there. Now, if you're looking for jobs, that's what you have to be very sensitive to is the culture of the company, whether it's a vendor or a user, whether it's a company that is kind of a slow-moving industry, a domain such as government, education, healthcare. They're more secure, easier schedules, much more, a little more family, people-centered, centric. And that's a good place to balance your life out. On the other hand, if you're a little more aggressive about income and earnings and stock or management, then you'll tend to go to a more aggressive company. And in technology, that would be your high-tech vendors and suppliers. Okay. Finally, so here I am in where you have to ask yourself, where am I in my career cycle? And when I evaluate the opportunity, now I want to look at my career goals. Everyone changes their career goals as they go through their career life cycle. We all live and have similar needs and changes. Yeah, sometimes we restart, sometimes things do change, but in general, you have to start balancing other parts of your life with family, career, income needs. Income needs drives a lot of people, why people keep jobs. They have to have the income to keep their lifestyle up and to keep the housing and child costs under control and education costs for the children. So all these come into play. The other thing is you find a certain area that you really like, your talent, and that's where you really want to lean on your strengths. You don't have to fix all your weaknesses. The real key to success is to figure out where you're strong and then go after that. So the product life cycle that are in the marketplace that we have to think about is each year I would look at it and say, what's going on in my market, in my domain? How many changes have occurred? A couple of the people in the IT space for the first time in my lifetime have started to see a slowdown in IT jobs. And we'll talk about that a little bit toward the back of the presentation. But the fact is there might be too few openings, or there might be in certain areas. There might be other places where there's plenty of openings, but no candidates. A lot of cases with LinkedIn these days, there's just too many candidates applying to all the jobs. They put down excruciatingly unreasonable requirements. The criteria creep is in every job that you see out there, and that makes the process longer, people afraid to apply, or people not getting the job, etc. And so, this is the things that you have to look at. A lot of times it has to do with the larger companies, just have so many candidates. You're better off looking at mid-sized companies. And future possibilities and career options. Do I have to transition? I spend a lot of my time with clients, and they are making transitions out of a sales role into a support role, into a customer service role, out of management into an individual contributor, from one technology to even a non-technology or operations field. So this will happen. And when you look at that, you have to assess a little bit, where is that domain going? Is the industry good? Is the company good? Is the products good, et cetera? Because otherwise you're going to have some downside risk. If the industry and markets are declining, you'll see layoffs. And you will also feel the pressure that you don't have any opportunity where you are, and then you'll have to make those changes. Okay? So the question in today's proactive world is, do I have a plan B? And for those that don't, I would highly recommend you change that in today's world, because opportunities come and go overnight. Your situation can change overnight. You all of a sudden, you could be not ready to approach an opportunity or to get out there and explore it just in case it is a good opportunity. You could also be the fact that if you're let go and then you have to start from zero, and the job search process is 90 days, 120 days, that's a earnings gap. So you really need to be ready. And there's lots of things that could come up to speed that could come quickly at you. There's also, in those cases, you might have to compromise on your income, and you should have a rainy day fund to help you with that, because you can't always count on some kind of severance, etc. Some people are opportunistic and they want to take a leap because they don't like where they are. They want to get to a different domain, a different feeling, etc. So you want to be ready with a resume and know how your interviewing is in order to be able to take that leap. And if you can't interview and be ready for things in 2 days, the opportunity will probably go past you. Restarting and reinventing oneself, common issue today. A lot of people are forced to reinvent themselves, and they don't know what to do. We will talk a little bit about that, because the traditional way of approaching jobs was meant for longer term careers, et cetera. It is not easy to shift the industries, products, and technologies in today's world if you don't have experience, only because people make a lot of judgments by recruiters and the tracking systems, et cetera, on the resumes. There is a solution for that, which we do, and we'll talk about that toward the back. But if you're going to try to transition, it's a challenge, and you can't follow the prevailing rules. Sometimes your technology will decline, and you have to get new learning. There's a lot of e-learning and online systems to help you do some of that. Again, you want to be able to respond quickly. And one of the keys to responding quickly is to build a personal network on LinkedIn and keep it, and not spend your days on it, but just keep building and connect with everybody so you have avenues to call when you need it. And this is kind of preventive insurance. If you have these networks built, it then allows you to use them when you're looking for a job. And so if you build them in the companies that you like, the industry that you like, and people that know you, I can tell you with 100% assurance that when you have a contact inside a company and get a reference in, your chances for winning a job or getting a job are probably improved by a factor of 10, because they will help you get in if you're a known commodity. It's not necessarily true that you're better than the response to the ad, but companies in general will say that if you've been referred, you're a better candidate. It's a little bit of a myth, but I'd go with it. It works. And then finally, you should always be ready to explore or talk to people. You There's a world you know. There's a world that you don't like, and you know that. So you know what you like, you know what you don't like. But that's probably a 10 or 20% of the world. There's a whole world out there that you don't know what you don't know. So our philosophy is very sales driven in the sense that we will go out and explore things so we become an informed decision maker and we make sure we're not missing an opportunity. And I could just tell you from my personal track record, going from a physics major to an engineering guy to a salesperson and to a headhunter, that's not a logical trek. And yet it was all linked, but it was basically about exploring. Okay, so one of the things, if you don't know how to approach this, is get a coach. I would say 90% of the people that I help have never had a coach before. It's a new growth industry because of the complexities of the market. And it's driven by the challenges, the consensus decision making, the difficulty, the ease of people just applying and flooding the gates with resumes, etc. The strategies are still guided by myths and HR procedures. I call them myths. These are prevailing opinions that were active in the 80s. They are less effective. They are not necessarily even right. And yet everybody follows them like a herd of cattle. And so if you follow those, you're going to look like every other resume, every other approach. You're going to just get in line like everybody else. And you're going to find that job search can be extremely frustrating. So get yourself a coach, get the latest, and get an innovative approach. That's what we do. So just to be honest, but you need some help to navigate this marketplace and get the position you want. Okay, so what we're offering to people, we always have a what did I do here? We offer $200. This is a $200 value. Excuse me. We are offering people a free. We always offer people a free coaching session to talk to you in person and help see where you might have some questions, answer them, show you a couple ideas on how to be innovative, and help you with any kind of transitions. We have a group of packages at very affordable pricing, and so you can look at those at our website, careeroystercoach.com. And for any of you that have come into this webinar, we have a $300 self-guided package, and we will give you 2 hours of coaching, which this is supposed to be a dollar sign. This will be $200 value on our $300 package, and it will help you with interviewing only. And that interviewing is the best product that we have. It's the product that made me go into coaching. It's a product that I've taught 500 recruiters how to use and place people. And the results were we would double or triple your odds of winning the opportunity you want. So one other strategy I want to tell you is this. How do you approach this market and keep your career intact? Being proactive means I need to have a resume, and I need to have it to be a forward-looking resume, not a traditional past tense resume. You should have a forward-looking document because job search is a sales and marketing process. The second thing is, and you have to get your skills up, like in the technology space and in accounting and others. Keep your certifications and things. They're fine, but the reality is the most critical factor in every promotion you get and every interview you take throughout your entire career is how well you interview. No one teaches people how to interview. It's the course that colleges forgot. And let me give you a reality from my 30 plus years of recruiting. The most qualified person doesn't get the job. It's the person that interviews the best. And 20% of the time, that might be the most qualified person. But I can tell you from our placement business and our recruiting business, if we sent 5 people out and did everything identical to them, some we thought were more qualified than others, some were less. The reality is the person that interviewed the best got the job, and we wouldn't be able to predict it. We used to bet beers on whether who would win, and we were constantly surprised. So interviewing is one of the skills that is the most can be so significant in terms of your career trajectory for internal promotions as well as careers. And we would highly suggest you consider that in your planning. All right, so I think we'll go back to the specific questions and answers, and I'll come out here. Did we get any other questions that came in?
I've got a couple of questions that came in, Howard. One question was how to pivot out of the retail industry. So if somebody wants to switch industries, any advice we would have?
You know, it was me, Howard. You know, it was me. I'll call you back. 20 years later, I'll call you back.
Tamikia, how are you?
Tamika McKinney. Hello, it's me. I gotta get out of there, man.
Are you still in Jacksonville?
No, I'm still in the Panhandle, but I'm out in by Panama City Beach.
Oh, okay, great. Tamika, when I first started the company, was helping me get started. We met. Well, actually, you went to another consulting company for coaching, right? Then I meet you there.
You were my coach, and we stayed connected after I paid the wonderful coaching price of however much it was. Totally changed my life. I think I made a $10,000 increase in a career, same career, better interview. Definitely got my money's worth. And then we did do some HR stuff and some support behind the scenes, to which I still accredit my skill sets in that. And I have effectively worked 30 years as a retail manager. So absolutely.
Everybody thinks this is a plant, like I paid you to get on this call.
No, you know what I want to get out of is, you know, you said it today. You said you can be in management and you want to be an individual contributor and you really want to get to a place. I'm in the senior level D and E area where I do not want to work 60 hours a week anymore.
Right.
I do not want to be, I am exactly where that curve, that belt line shows. I have coached and grown and developed and made plenty of money. And I honestly don't even need the money anymore. I mean, I need money, but I don't want to work 50 or 60 hours a week to get it anymore. So I am not a plant. I literally I need more coaching. A coach needs a coach.
I remember, well, that's another story, but she actually came through. I was doing contract work with another firm at the time a little bit. And that's where we met. And she will tell you how much the way we packaged our pricing is significantly more affordable, wasn't it?
Well, and you know what? The truth is, I may end up hiring you yet again because I know we need a one-pager at this point. I can't use what we used 15, 20 years ago, which was fantastic. And so now I need an AI-approved one-pager to get me out of this job I'm in.
Well, you set up a free session and we'll catch up and we'll talk about that.
But answer how to get us out, how do we pivot out of our world?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I give you several examples real quick. And when you have a session, we'll show you these particular approaches. You see, if you think about job search as a sales and marketing process, if everybody would agree with that, you're selling yourself, right? You're a product. You're selling yourself to something. And in every product we've ever sold, I've sold software, hardware, I sold an AI product, believe it or not, in 1992, applicant tracking. And the reality is when you sell something, you write up a proposal, you write up a statement of work, you write up a specification, and then that says you have this need and here's how I can solve your problem. Well, what's interesting is job search is the only sales and marketing process, and those are forward-looking documents. Job search is a sales and marketing process where the prevailing opinion is to use a past tense biographical history to market to your next job. Now, you can get away with that if you got a pedigree, background, and perfect track record. But if you want to transition and your whole background says I'm in retail, what are they going to do? I'm going to give you 10 seconds when I bring your resume up, and I'm going to say retail, B pile, never to be seen again. Because you're not even talking to me about what I want to do. So our approach has been forward-looking, where we decide what are your goals and what are you trying to get to? What are the keywords and criteria there? And then we'll write a forward-looking resume that takes us there. Now, that's one step. So we have a different kind of resume that no one has. The second step, and I don't know if we were writing them when you were back there. I think we were a little bit, but it's developed quite a bit in the 14 years. The second step in the process is we can sell in our background. And this is, I've done this my whole life, selling technology and services and training salespeople, and placements. You can sell what you want to do. You can sell your knowledge. You can sell what you're capable of doing. You can sell any kind of hobby, background, or whatever, just as easily as you can sell your experience. So most people don't ever think that they have 3 or 4 other avenues of knowledge, of background, of experience that will allow them to do a job. Now, you can't get top jobs right away, but you can transition your field. One example, I took a school bus lady who at Fairfax County, who was managing school buses and children every day, 10 years, couldn't get out of it, bartender at night. She was managing 50 drivers, was really good at management, et cetera. And she came to me stuck, and their salary was very low still, and she was just trapped. And she hired me to help her, and we made her a logistics and transportation manager. Took her salary up by a factor of 50%. She had one interview at Ryder, got the job, got promoted to a manager in Ryder within 8 months. And her resume, you would hardly know she was in school buses, because we talked about her transferable skills. And we talked about, I want to go here. Here's the transferable skills I have. Here's the technologies. And she has a 3-page resume that talked to that story. I had another example of, Carrie knows this in one of our webinars. We had a kid that didn't know where he wanted to go. And I asked him what his, he was 26 with a degree in hospitality, waiting on tables, bartending, working at hotels, worked at the Cloister on St. Simon's Island, no, Sea Island. I was just there. He worked there, and then he didn't know what he wanted to do. He had a little sales background. So we turned him, I asked him what his hobby was. He said, making bourbon. So I said, did you ever hear of this distributor, this producer? And he knew the products. So we wrote up all his knowledge of hospitality and his some sales background and everything he knew about alcohol. Got him 3 interviews in Atlanta, works for Savannah Distribution, 6 years, multiple promotions, and changed his life.
Right.
So that's how we have to do with you, the same kind of thing, where we say, the goal is, where do you want to go? And then come up with our sales and marketing strategy, because you are the salesperson and you are a product, and we have to win in that interview. The interview is the key to making those transitions. Now, not necessarily HR, not necessarily posted jobs. In the case of that bourbon guy, we didn't have any posted jobs. We went directly to the sales managers in those companies. Okay, does that help you with your question?
Oh no, I'm going to set up a consultation. What are you talking about?
You're done. You're done. Okay, the next thing is the question I got was, why is the tech sector facing such different candidate realities than other industries? Is it Sri? Are you tech? Is it who's tech? Are you technical? Gaurav and Sneeder, you're technical.
I'm technical.
Okay.
Yes, I'm also technical.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been in technology since, well, with the computer world itself since 75, right? I'm older than dirt. Now, the reality is that market has been spared for a long time without layoffs, et cetera, because there was so much technology being developed. But that's not the case anymore. I just got something on the McKinsey here, and it showed the decline in the last couple of years of technical jobs. And that's caused, and every other industry has gone through that. In accounting and sales, that when layoffs come, they go up and down, up and down. Tech has always been insulated a little bit because it was moving fast enough that it didn't get impacted. Well, now when you look at the efficiencies that are coming into play, there's a couple of things that are happening. One is everybody used to have their own computers. And when I saw the cloud technology starting to come in, which I actually adopted in 2000 in my recruiting company, the reality is that all of a sudden, if every company had a whole staff of people on infrastructure, and now they shift all their computers into the cloud, they have one company that handles 200 companies. That's one issue. Second of all, instead of them doing a lot of custom applications now, it's all about configuring. Third of all, there's a lot of contractors out there, and they take a lot of the work, and they hire pretty good people. So if you were used to be that everybody kept their own staff, but now they just as soon hire contractors, so they don't have the overhead forever if the workload does. So there's three reasons. Now, what's AI going to do? And some of the tools that are in the IT space, it is definitely shrinking the need for people at the lowest levels of execution of developing code, et cetera. It's going to shrink those things. And what the trick there is to, as I mentioned, get above on the people side so that you're above the applications and above the technology. Now, even in AI, that's going to create some interesting challenges because sometimes that AI might be smarter than me, right? And it can do things faster, better, et cetera. But AI is going to change dramatically every job out there in the white collar world and in the technical world. And so we're going to have to all guess at what the best position is to be in. And because it's going to change a whole bunch of processes, a whole bunch of jobs, and everybody's going to have to get a new kind of job. But that happened when we started computers too. Everybody jumped into a new field. There'll be new jobs, but they're not going to be at the same level. So you are going to have to be flexible. So it goes back to my basic point is, how do I have the most security? I need to see where I want to go. I want to define the size of the company I want. I want to try to figure out where they are. And then I have to win the job. I have to win the job is the key. Just because you get in for an interview doesn't mean anything. If you don't win the job, you're stuck. So the key is to be ahead of the curve by proactive career management, and then be ready to jump or create a job for yourself. We teach people how to create jobs for themselves. I have people that we have gone around the system and they created a job for themselves by going to the management team. We can teach you that. All right, so technologies tend to change. I'll tell you, a sales career, I thought that was the most safe career in my life. That's why I went into it, because I could, no matter what would happen, they always need salespeople. Well, a lot of the salespeople are being replaced. And marketing used to be a small department. Sales was the big department. But the cost of sales is too high today. So guess what? Costs and products are commoditized where everybody does their research on the web. So by the time the salesman gets in there, they already got a lot of things figured out, and they really want the technical person or someone to solve the problem for them. So in sales, the only strategy that makes sense right now is to go to a very complex product, customized product, some product where you need consulting and personal attention, and it has a good price tag. It's the only way you can make money in sales today. The rest of them are customer support inside sales, et cetera. So every job role, accounting is going to get automated like crazy. Operations, a lot of that's going to get automated. Look at the Amazon, they got these robots and everything running around and everything. Everything will be automated, and AI will just increase on that. So you have to get a little bit above that technology into a function to have a long-term, high-paying job. There's a lot of other jobs that are not going to pay as much. Telecom's a perfect example, right? Telecom increases all the time, except for the fact that the salespeople selling telecom don't make that much money anymore. They used to make a ton. Half my family was in it, and they did great, but they can't make it. Now the one guy's out doing roofing. He can't make any money. All right. So you have to watch the trends in the industry. So that answers that question. Second question I got was, how can you, you have to follow up with an interview? Oh, when a recruiter says they feel you're great and the hiring manager is just what he's looking for, but now they don't call you back. Anybody had that experience? Okay. That's an interviewing problem partly. And partly it's because you didn't really qualify them well enough in the interview and ask a couple key questions to figure out what they were really thinking. Okay, it's a little bit of it's a sales technique that we teach, and if therefore you don't know. Now it doesn't mean they still won't fit to you or they'll think you're great, but then the manager, but maybe the recruiter just didn't know what the manager wanted, and it would change. There's a couple ways around that. I could name a couple placements where we just ignored the recruiter then, and we went around and got the manager and went and made a phone call, and that worked. We can teach you how to do that. My kids know how to do that, and you have nothing to lose. You just have to say, I can't get through the system. I'm not having difficulty here. Could you help me out? I'll fill out all the forms or do all the stuff, but I'd like to know that I could get into the interview process. So that's how you would handle that. What's the other? One of the other things is you can, yeah, okay, that's pretty much it.
Howard, the one other question was, can going to companies in person to deliver a resume, would that be helpful?
No, it's a waste of time. I used to try to do that even when I was doing it back in the past. They have so many, security is so tight everywhere. They're going to have someone stop you. You can't get in to see the right person. You just waste a lot of time on it. You just can't, you just don't even think about it. But I'll tell you what you can do, and most people don't do this. Everybody's gotten so used to doing emails that they don't call. They don't call. And so I would teach you how to use a phone call where you introduce yourself. You kind of, especially if you're an IT person looking for contract work as a possibility too, you can go around the system because they can control who they hire at the management level and the department level versus HR level. But you call around and you try to you run an exploratory meeting. That's what you do. And then when you do that, you can get their attention. So, but don't go visit. It's just that doesn't work. What's the last one? Pivot retail.
That was it. I think we covered all of the questions, Howard.
Okay. Anybody else have something to ask? Roshan, where are you?
He's here.
There you are. You got my email today, right?
Yes.
All right, good. It look better to you?
Yes.
Good. All right, you're set for that. I want to catch up with you on your activity too. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank
right.
you Howard, for sharing all of these insights. I hope that this has been helpful and everybody at least took something away from this. And like I said, we're going to start doing these every other week. So I'll look at the input from you guys on the best time. And again, sign up. And even if you can't join it, we'll always get you the recording. So hopefully we can help you all on your career paths.
All right, Gaurav, thank you for attending.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
just
Thanks, Howard. Thanks,
my
everybody.
email address,
Pardon me?
in the chat. I just sent my email address in the chat, for the recording in case,
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've got it.
All right, thank you.
For when you signed up. Thank you.
Good. All right.
All right. Have a good one.
Anybody
Thank
else?
you.